Hey guys, I'm Jenna, also known as Ayala13. This video is to mark a significant milestone. My channel has just reached 500 subscriptions, so that's exciting. Now, the reason I'm happy about this is because a little bit more than 7 months ago when I started this channel, I was extremely self-conscious and very self-aware that I was talking to myself. And knowing that there are people out there who are enjoying what I'm doing is a great motivator for me to keep doing these videos. So thank you for liking, and I'm always open for feedback if you've got any ideas and things I can improve. To that end, I thought I would do something a little different for this video in the form of a collaborative project. Now, a few months ago, Mark III was released for War Machine, which is the game I'm most heavily invested in, and with it came updated rules, one of which was for a Minions model, Lanyssa Ryssyl. She is now extremely good value for her points cost, and anyway, she works for both my Retribution of Syra army and also my husband's Mercenaries army, and we thought since we're going to be painting the same model at the same time anyway, why not film it? After a little bit of thinking, I decided that film might not be the best idea. I thought it'd be a little bit difficult to see two simultaneous videos at the same time, and also it would double my editing time. So in the end, I decided to go for still frames to solve that problem, and also I thought it comes with the added benefit of if you guys like the format and you're interested, in the future I could do a collaborative project with you. All you would need to do is send me your pictures. So if that's something you think sounds awesome, let me know in the comments. If you have any ideas of how I could improve this video or my other videos, let me know, and I hope you enjoy. Right, I'd like to introduce the hubby. This is Phil, also known as Padoink on the forums. Would you like to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Phil. I started playing 40k like I imagine most hobbyists did around about my age when I was a little kid, and I left all of my collection neglected under my bed for several years until I met Jen, and then she got into the hobby and she actually kind of taught me to paint. So now I kind of enjoyed the hobby side of the wargaming community more than the actual gaming side of it, because I'm garbage at it.
It's funny because I tell people that you got me into the hobby and you're telling people that I got you into the hobby, so...
Yeah, it's like a whole kind of Batman Joker, I made you, you made me kind of, yeah. Yep.
So anyway, what are you going to be painting your Lanyssa like today?
So I'm going to go with a scheme that matches my Mercenary Dwarven army, which is kind of a lot of autumny fall kind of colours. The scheme that I'm using for Lanyssa is very close to the studio scheme. So.
Okay, and I'm going to be making mine match my Retribution of Syra army. They're kind of a cool-based colour scheme instead, so I've got snow on the bases and a lot of blues and cool colours like that. Alright, let's get started.
Cool. We chose to prime our models in white. I started with a red-brown base coat, which I then hit with a dark brown wash, and then followed that up with a bone-coloured dry brush. I then realised that I hated this, so I went back and hit it with a secondary dark brown wash.
I base coated my base with black, then I dry brushed it with grey, and then I added a little bit of a light dry brush around the edges. I finished the base off with a black rim.
For the exterior of the cloak, I started with a greeny brown base coat. I then followed it up with a greeny grey dry brush. I then hit it with a black wash to tone it back down. At this stage, it's absolutely imperative that you forget to highlight the collar of your cloak, so you then have to go back and do it later. For the interior of the cloak, I did a dark brown base and then a really careful light brown dry brush on the textures inside and between her legs, and then I followed it up with a flesh-coloured wash.
I started her cloak with a base coat of very dark grey, then I dry brushed it with 2 lighter greys, then I washed it with black.
I'm absolutely terrible at painting eyes, so I always paint the eyes on a face before I do the skin tone around it. So I start by painting a big black stripe across where her eyes are, and then I dot in 2 points of white for the sclera, and then I follow that up with touching up the black for the pupil. For the skin tone, I started with a medium pink skin tone. I then followed it up with a flesh wash to put some shadows into the recesses, and then I highlighted by 2 brush blending back to the original skin tone and then mixing in a little bit of white.
I found it very difficult to start with the eyes first, but I'm trying to follow his pattern, so I did it his way. I filled in the eyes with black, then dotted in the whites with pale cream. I base coated the flesh with a pale bluey purple, then I highlighted by mixing that with white. I mixed in a little pink with this colour to glaze the lips.
I used a dark blue-grey as a base coat for the hair, and then I mixed some white into that for a very careful dry brush, which I then hit with a black wash. It's at this point that I also went back and did a second black wash on the interior of the cloak because there wasn't any differentiation in the colour.
I painted the hair with grey and highlighted it with white.
For the cloth, I started with a dark green base, which then I layered up for the first highlight, and then I used a really light green for an edge highlight. I then put shadows on by two brush blending in a dark purple, starting in the corners and where all the dark places on the model are, and then blending it back towards the raised areas. Finally, I hit all the raised areas with a final touch-up of a light green.
I painted the cloth with a dark blue and highlighted it by mixing in white.
Evidently, I put a lot more effort into my cloth than you do.
I just do simple schemes.
For the leather, I started with a dark flesh tone, and then I highlighted it with a mix of that colour and a little bit of white. I then hit it with a dark brown wash, and then I did a final edge highlight of a light tan colour.
I painted the leather with dark brown, then washed it with black, and highlighted it with brown.
For the silver parts of the model, I started with a mid-tone silver, which I then hit with a black wash to put some depth onto the model, and then I layered on silver. And for the bronze parts of the model, such as the brass balls that are hanging off her belt and the cap on the end of the scabbard, I did a bronze base, which I then hit with a brown wash, and then I layered it back to the original bronze. It's at this point that I decided that I wanted to go back and put a red wash on some selected parts of the leather.
I painted the buckles and chain with silver, then washed it with black, and highlighted it back to silver. I painted the weapon haft with gold, and washed it with sepia. Then I highlighted it with pale gold. I paint the teeth on her boots with a pale brown and then highlight it with cream. I finished the scabbard by painting the straps brown and then highlighting with a lighter brown.
Finally, I based my model with a browny yellow static grass, and then I followed that up by filling in most of the other areas of the base using Secret Weapon Autumn leaf litter.
I glue on static grass. When that's dry, I dry brushed it with white for a frosted look. I mix up some snow using Games Workshop's modelling snow, PVA, white paint, and a little water. Then I scoop it on with an old brush.
And here are the finished models.
Alright, that's the end of our collaborative project. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave feedback. If you'd like to see something like this again, I'd like to know. Say goodbye.
See you later.